In our last episode, Face Our Fears, Franklin Chen, who came to America from China just over a year ago, described what made it hard for him initially.
Very early on in a semester, I was experiencing all that I'm good, I need to be perfect, imposter syndrome, everything. Then I was hiding my fears and stress to other people.
Those other people are his classmates from the Graduate School of Education at Harvard.
I would start to feel very depressed and tired by the end of the day because I feel like I have to put on a show every day, and that's not me.
But one day, after he cut his left hand by accident and had to wear gauze around for days,
they started saying like, oh, what's going on? Like, what's wrong with you? Like, what happened?
They care.
They care. They started to care.
Franklin began to open up, sharing feelings of anxiety. As it turns out, he is hardly alone. In this part one of the two-part series, Why Not Me?, we listen to Asian students at Harvard, like Franklin, sharing personal experience of internal turmoil and external pressure that compounds stress and fear. I'm Abel Chan, and this is a special edition of One in a Billion. The world says, fake it till you make it. But here, the mantra is, learn to change the world. But where do you begin to change the world if your self-image is somewhere between faking it and making it?
I think everyone will feel that one way or another, we are lonely sometimes, that we are in a place that we don't belong. It's like when we receive the admittance letter, we all think that we probably are the only admission mistake by Harvard.
Why Not Me? The first open mic storytelling event in front of a live audience at Harvard was designed to break open those hidden feelings of inadequacies or injustice Asian students have in a world that put them on a pedestal, in a box, or out in the cold. Why Not Me was convened by the Graduate School of Education at the Asquith Farm on October 14th. It was open to all Harvard students. I had the honor of moderating that forum, seeing students, one after another, stepping up to the microphone, sitting down on a high chair, and occupying a stage that was usually reserved for published authors, educators, or celebrities, until now. Thanks to Tracy Jones, Assistant Director of the Office of Student Affairs, a bold visionary who saw the need to create a safe space for Asian students at Harvard, who are not always ready or invited to be heard in public.
Hi. My name is Franklin Chen.
We begin with Franklin's story about identity, vulnerability, and self-worth.
Being an international student here is a lot. Not just because I have to find a way to figure out how to fit in and to prove that I'm capable even despite the fact that I'm not from here. It was also the first time that I realized that I'm Asian. Doesn't that sound ridiculous? I wasn't able to wrap my head around why coming to America made me feel this way until 3 months ago, after the commencement day. You would think that having a Harvard degree in my hand, I would have figured out everything. Well, I didn't, and I was panicking. I had to tell my parents oh, I'm fine, I have enough to live by, while I'm actually jobless and earning nothing. My visa only allows me to stay for a year working here, and every single day passing feels like I've lost a fortune. When you're feeling like you're running out of time and the balance in your bank account is running close to 3 digits, you have nothing else to do but grabbing every opportunity out there. And that's what I did. I sent out resumes everywhere, lowering my expectations day by day. And then when the summer school program for middle school and high school kids showed up and they got back to me, I was like, okay, I need to make sure that I get it. After nailing my interview, this HR, who is white and American, said yes, and she would love me to start as soon as possible. She said that I was an ideal candidate because they serve a large population of students with Chinese descent. And I was thrilled because I thought, okay, this is going to be my big break. I woke up super early, bringing my enthusiasm and my awesome energy with me. And then when I arrived, my mind went blank because it was not the school that I had dreamed of. The entire 3-story building looks like someone had thrown a Halloween party and left. It was dusty, it was dingy, and everything was scattered around. I calmed myself down and I said to myself, okay, desperate time, desperate measures, just do it. The HR came and greeted me warmly and took me to see the supervisor of this program. She was a Chinese lady wearing a yellow t-shirt probably bought from a kids section, a pair of big baggy white pants, and pink sneakers. Till this day, I still don't know her name. Let's call her Karen. Karen seemed nice. She said, "Oh, hi, how come you are here?" That's the first sentence that she said to me with the high pitch and a typical Chinese accent, which is great. Apparently, she didn't know that I was her new teacher, but I felt worse because I felt like she thought I was a student and she was pretending to know me. So I explained myself. I was like, "Oh, I'm your new teacher," with my perfect American accent. And she somehow still thought that I was a student volunteer working as a teaching assistant or something. Fortunately, the HR person came and chimed in and explained that I was from China, just graduated from Harvard, and she hired me as an English writing teacher. All of a sudden, the look on Karen's face changed. It was nothing like I've seen before. It seemed as if this poor HR person has committed a despicable crime. I knew what that face meant. It meant that she denied my ability to teach English simply because of my identity, an Asian guy from China. In my mind, I was already visualizing what was going to happen. You know, she was going to drag this HR to the side and then criticize her with weird hand gestures, telling her, "You made the wrong decision." But I was wrong because it was way worse. Karen didn't pull the HR to the side. She criticized her right in front of me. She said, "Why didn't you tell me this? You have to know the consequence," with no S. "We have many American students. What if their parents find out that a Chinese person is teaching them English? We will have complaints. Don't do this again." I didn't know how to process this. I guess I'm feeling very angry as I'm telling this story, but at that moment, I didn't even know how to be angry. I was just shocked. I was shocked because all of this is coming from a Chinese lady, someone who looks just like me. She has internalized everything, the idea of inferiority, to such an extent that she gave no mercy to her own people. The stereotypes, the discrimination, not only affected her, but also became part of her. When the world is constantly telling you that you're not good enough because you're not supposed to be, you either accept it or you fight. What did I choose? 3 months later, I'm a proud member of the Office of Student Affairs in HGSE, family, an English tutor, and a teaching fellow here at the school. It isn't a glorious achievement, but it all became possible after I stormed out of the hell of that place 3 months ago and never went back. Thank you for listening.
A good friend of Franklin is next. She doesn't want to be named. She will talk about learning English in China from 2 teachers. One is Chinese, the other is not. What's happened that shocked her, but later strengthened her self-confidence?
I was 9 and I was sitting in a very dim lit classroom in Zhoushan. I was repeating after my English teacher with English words, and I was thinking, why am I doing this? This is the least useful thing in the whole wide world to learn English. Back then, I was in Zhoushan. 80% of the area is in mountains, and speaking Mandarin wouldn't even necessarily get you around because everyone is talking in local dialects. And English is nothing better than birds' song, basically. I was repeating after my teacher, and the whole class are chirping, chirping, chirping. And then my teacher suddenly stopped, and she was standing there frozen, and I was so surprised. And then after a while, she admitted, "I don't know this word. Let's go on." And as a 9-year-old, I was so surprised because in an Asian culture, teachers are like omniscient, especially for my teacher. We all think she's the queen of knowledge, the omniscient mind who teaches us English, math, as well as PE. Basically, there's nothing possibly she doesn't know. I was in the classroom frozen until I realized 2 years later, when I moved to a bigger city named Wuhan, which is in central China, And I realized for the first time that my teacher back in Zhoushan was teaching math, English, PE at the same time, not because she was omniscient, but because of a lack of resources in rural China. And I realized for the first time that we were struggling back then. When I was in Wuhan, I was overjoyed with all the extra resources I didn't used to have. But at the same time, I feel so overwhelmed because I thought I was in a place that I don't belong. For the first time, I have an English teacher, and I was so amazed, by the way, that when I first met her and how fluent her English is until I realized for the first time I was meeting an English speaker. Even though she's a foreign teacher for me, I was most close to her because I thought, in a way, we were very much alike. In a sense, we are all exiled from our true home to a land that we don't really belong. She was very quick to notice my unease, and she would encouragingly looking at me when I'm in classrooms and invite me over to office hours afterwards. So because of her and many other teachers like her, they created that safe space that allows me to communicate with my feelings and talk about my uneasiness and help me realize that that difference, that gap between me and other students are in a way imaginary and sometimes are of my own construction. So because of them, I was able to realize that I'm able to belong.
When I first heard about this event, I was really excited, and they asked me what I wanted to call my story, and I decided to call it Shao Michael, which means Little Michael in English, for those of you who don't speak Chinese.
Michael He, a college junior, is keenly aware of what makes him stand out, and he took full advantage of that to surprise many people, beginning with his family.
I've always been probably one of the smallest people in the rooms, like ever since I was in kindergarten all the way up until now. Definitely with the guys, but sometimes even with girls around too. I'm very small, and when I was little, parents, Chinese friends' parents, they would sometimes just like look at me, smile, and then say, Shao Michael. And then I was like, what is that even supposed to mean? I'm just, are you trying to say hi to me, or what is going on? My parents had very big hopes for Shao Michael, and they signed me up for a million different activities, things from like basketball, swimming, tennis, to like artistic things like piano and like art and stuff, but I was never really amazing at any of these things. I was always pretty mediocre. I would try all these things, and usually all my friends would be better, probably because they're like bigger, stronger, or just more talented in general than I was. I definitely liked doing some of these things, but my size obviously got in the way. Going through this mediocrity from elementary school to middle school, I didn't really have that thing. You know, like a lot of people have that thing where they just really love to do and they're really good at it and like they're associated with that. Maybe some people it's like softball, some people it's playing the piano. I never really had that thing. One day I was just watching TV and I was wondering, how do people get on TV? These are real people, right? It's not like they're just like trained from a young age. Well, some of them are, but these are like real people and they're just like us. So I asked my parents, how do people get on TV? Of course, they had no idea. When they were growing up in China, they never knew much about media because media wasn't that developed in China. And of course, they knew nothing about American media. They're like, I don't know. So of course, as any like high school kid would do, I just looked up online and saw like, try to figure out how do people get on TV? Literally that Google phrase. And figured out like people got talent agents and they started auditioning for things. And so I was like to my parents, why not me? Why can't I try that? And they're like, well, one, you're really short. Two, there are a million people better looking than you. So, and then three, you're Chinese. Why would they choose a Chinese, short, not so great looking person over a tall, beautiful American person? I was like, well, dang, that's pretty tough. What am I gonna do now? And so I'm like, maybe I'll just try to submit it and you guys sign the release forms here and we'll try it out. I submitted just to one place, one talent agent. And for some reason, maybe because I was so different from all of the other auditionees, I was able to get a talent agent and make it past a few rounds and things like that. I actually started being in some TV commercials from high school on. My parents were like, what the heck is happening? Like, what is going on? They had no idea what was going on. I think it really helped me open up as a person and be more comfortable on stage. The coolest thing was that last year I saw a posting to audition for this Tylenol commercial showing different American families and how they operate and how they're different. And so I was like, okay, I'll try to submit my family and they could be interested. I didn't even tell them that I was submitting them. I submitted my family, submitted some pictures of them, and then the casting director was like, you guys would be cool to be in this Tylenol commercial. Can we fly over to your house and film this thing? I told my parents and they're like, we don't have time for this. It is the middle of the summer. My older brother was not even in the city and I wasn't in the city because I was doing something over the summer, but they were like, fine, okay, let's do it. And so I brought everyone from my 4-year-old little sister all the way to my 80-year-old grandparents, and they were all on this Tylenol commercial. It was the weirdest thing ever because like these 2 days, a bunch of producers and directors and things like that coming into our house and filming, and my parents had never spoken on camera really in their whole lives. It was pretty crazy. But afterwards, they were like, okay, so when can we do the next one? And I was like, what? You guys didn't even want me to try this in the first place. So it was really cool that something that they were initially probably against me doing, they actually were involved in the end and actually really enjoyed connecting our family. And even my grandma, she like sends this video to her friends who in China who can't even access YouTube, by the way. So she has to like find a different way to do it. But that's my story. Thank you.
If Michael's story sounds like a fairy tale, it is. I think it's magical because he refused to be defined by negative perception. He defies it, transcends it, and keeps pushing to create a new reality for himself. In part 2 of Why Not Me, we'll hear more personal stories that break through bias, borders, and barriers. Do you have a story to share with us? Just go to our Facebook page or our website, pitch a story at chinapersonified.com, or email me your audio story, maximum 5 minutes. I'm Mabel Chan, and this has been a special edition of 1 in a Billion.